Alright, hey guys, so I'm gonna make this video on stick shift techniques when you're driving around in the city. So I hope my head isn't in the shot. So I'm gonna try to get a decent angle of the gauges and the shift knobs. A lot of you like watching me shift. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and start the car, let it run a little bit 'cause it's a little cold out, and then we'll be able to get going. Alright guys, we're just about warmed up, and that's gonna be my first tip. It's not really stick shift exclusive, but I've noticed that at least when I'm driving an automatic car, it's a lot easier to not let the car warm up, because you can, when you're driving stick, you can feel that the car isn't warmed up, if that makes sense. Like, you can tell that it needs to be warmed up and that the RPMs are so high and everything. So I like to let my car sit for about 30 seconds before I go ahead and get going. Just let the RPMs drop a little bit. But yes, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So if you're watching this video, you should already know how to drive stick, and if you don't, you can go ahead and check out my stick shift tutorial video, or you can just hang around and watch me drive around. So when the engine's cold like this, it's certainly a good idea to stay under 3,000 RPMs or so and just drive it pretty calmly. So I'm going to do that until it gets a little bit warmed up. But that's the first step, is you want to shift smoothly, and just, it doesn't have to be smooth I guess, but slowly, and you don't want to be ripping through the gears. But not everyone follows that. It's not mandatory, but it is something that I do, so therefore I'm going to recommend it. And so I know I'm going to be coming up to a stop sign, so instead of putting it into neutral, I'm just going to downshift, because I don't really want to bother having to go into first gear, because I'm just going to slow down. It's not really a blind intersection. So unless you're going to stop, I think it's better to downshift rather than putting it into neutral, slowing down, and then having to do a bigger rev match to get into the gear that you want. So I'm just thinking about where I should go here. Okay, so right now we're coming up to a red light. So I'm going to go ahead and just pop it from fourth into neutral. Actually a little sunny out. And so I'm just in neutral, so I'm not doing anything with the clutch or anything. I'm just hanging out, waiting for the light to change. And some tips is watching light. So I see that light turned yellow, so I knew that it was going to be their turn to turn left. And so now it should be our turn pretty soon. So I did go ahead and put it into first, so I do have the clutch in, just because I knew the light was going to be changing soon. So to shift smoothly, there isn't really a set thing, it's more by feel. But what I go ahead and do when I'm shifting smoothly is I let off the gas, I ease the clutch in, and which you don't have to do, it's just a habit of mine. And then I let the clutch out, not super slowly, but pretty smoothly, while adding a little bit of gas, just to get it a nice smooth feel. So the area I'm going is a school zone, and some people should be getting out, so I don't know how crowded it's going to be, but it's going to be a lot more crowded later. It's a weird buzzing noise. So you can see I just went from 6th to 5th. The reason I did that is because my RPMs were getting to around 2,000, which is just a little bit low for my liking. So I just raised them up. And that's another thing too, is that downshifting can also be used as engine braking. And some people prefer to brake that way, but I personally don't. So right now I'm just coasting because there's a turn. So I let my RPMs drop, then I rev matched. Now I'm just coasting. So I see the turns coming up, so I'm going to go into third. And I used to go into neutral for this turn, but then I just got tired of having to, when it was in neutral, push in the clutch and then give it a bunch of gas to get the RPMs up to speed with the engine. So I just like to leave it in gear. I like to leave my car in gear as much as possible, because it is safer theoretically, and it's a little bit more convenient too, and it's also more fun, even though it does wear out your synchros quicker because they're always shifting. So right now I come up to a red light, So I did just pop it from second into neutral, just because I do want to make a complete stop here. So now I'm going to go into first. Stop, it's a good thing I did, because there's a police officer. And another tip is to not leave your hand on the shift knob while you're driving. This is something that's pretty controversial. I mean, lots of people do it, and lots of people say not to do it. And just while I'm talking, just downshifting today, I'm coming up to a light that, like I did, I was expecting it to change to green. So, I used to leave my hand on the shift knob when I was driving a lot, just so it is more comfortable. I should have known it would change. So I'm braking abruptly, so I'm just going to go into neutral. But, what's that clicking? That's weird. But, yeah, I used to leave my hand on the shift knob just because it is more comfortable, and in stick shift you are shifting quite often, obviously, so you want to have your hand there so you can shift a lot. But I guess that especially in STIs, because if you notice when I'm driving, the shift lever is bouncing around and just moving freely, and if your hand is resting on that, your hand is limiting the movement of the I don't want to say gearbox, but it's limiting the movement of the shift lever, which is creating an unnecessary wear on your transmission, because it's restricting its movements, what it wants to do. So that's why I say you shouldn't do that. But it honestly is one of those things where the wear is so minimal that it won't hurt you to go ahead and just leave it on that much. It won't kill you, won't kill your car. But if you can resist or again break the habit, then it's definitely not a bad habit to break. So for driving, every car is different for cruising. I'm in 5th gear, going 55 at about 29,000 RPMs. I just keep varying the speed a little bit. And every car is different. So in my old car, if I was in 5th gear going 55, I'd be around 2,200 RPMs. And you have to adapt to which car you're driving so that you can get used to this and be comfortable. Because in the STI, since it's a turbocharged, I like to have my boost span not far away, if you know what I'm saying. Because in case something does happen, I like to be able to give it some gas and then be in boost in a short amount of time. So that's the reason why I like to keep my RPMs around around the 3,000 mark when I'm driving. But if you're in a naturally aspirated car, I would recommend keeping your car within around the power band or close to it, just so that you can have that power if you need. But it will decrease your gas mileage, because to get the best gas mileage, you want to not keep your RPM super low, but you want to keep them low and drive moderately. And from my understanding, the higher RPMs are, the more gas you're eating up, and because the engine's working harder. But on the flip side of that, if you're always keeping the RPMs really low, and you're going up a hill or something and you're at 2,000 RPMs and you're really pushing your car, then the engine is actually working harder because it needs to catch up and get the power from such a low RPM. So that's not good necessarily. So it's kind of a flip thing. So I'm just comfortable with where I keep mine. I'm comfortable with the gas mileage I get. So that's why I choose to do that. So right now there's a stop sign coming up, and not quite ready to start downshifting, but right now I think, hey, I'm just in the coast, there's no cars behind me. I'm just going to downshift to 4th, and I do that by pushing the clutch, flipping the throttle, and then putting it into gear, then letting out the clutch. And I had a video filmed on that, but I lost the footage, and whoops, the accident just went into 4th, but I caught my mistake, so I didn't let out the clutch all the way, because if I did, the car would have bogged. So right now, I'm just cruising, so we'll pop it into 6th gear. right now it's pretty open roads, like there's not many cars, so I'm kind of free to like drive my car not how I want, but I don't have to be so limited by traffic, so I'm not always having to be in low gears at low speeds. So right now I'm trying to time this light, because I see it's a red light and it looks like the traffic is slowing and that it might be our turn to go pretty soon. So I'm just keeping distance from the light and trying to keep it in gear, so in case the light does change, and so I don't have to go from neutral into a gear, and I can just push on the gas and just get going. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen, because I misjudged it and the turn lane was going to go. So I will just put it into neutral and then just wait my turn. Stick shift is learning from experience or by watching someone. So that's another reason why I wanted to leave the shift lever in the picture, so you guys can just kind of watch and see what I'm doing. I wish I can have a shot of the pedals, but I can't get that at the moment, unfortunately. But so, right now, there is a truck in front of this truck going very slowly. And I'm in 4th gear on a really slight incline at about 2200 RPMs. So normally I would downshift so I could have the power, but I figure, hey, we're in slight traffic, and I know this road, I know there's going to be a light that could be red coming up ahead, so there's no point in me to really downshift, especially when the incline is now gone and we're on a flat surface, so it's easy for me to get power even in this lower RPM in 4th gear. Look, I'm about to hit 1,800 miles on my car. So there we go, the light turned to red. I'm just waiting for it to hit 1,800 mile mark so I can take a picture. It's a weird habit that I have. That's where my brake pedal just kind of pops. Actually, I want to go right here. So right now I have the clutch pressed in and I'm in 1st gear. I knew I'd be taking off again, so I didn't want to put it back into neutral. I knew I'd just be shifting, so I'm just trying to wait. Obviously, the STI is the car that has, but the SI drive does change my shifting style and patterns. Because if I'm in a sportier mode, there's a lot of debris in the road. It's easier to have the power, so you don't have to be in a lower gear at higher RPMs as often, because you do have the power. Oh, there we go, 1800. Picture. Alright, there we go, that'll have to do, so I do have to drive. So right now, I'm just in neutral, I was just coasting, and I'm stopping at the red light. So I see they're turning, so I put it into 1st, and I'm going. See the second I shift, my hands off the gear lever, back to the steering wheel, on my lap. suggest is people complain about driving stick in traffic because they're always taking the car in and out of first gear. And that's a lot of work with the clutch and shifting. But what I do is I try to leave my car in first, and I try to keep a really big distance between the car in front of me and myself, because that way I can just be going really slow, but if I just follow the gas, I don't have to be out of gear and I can just keep on rolling. And if I have to, I'll just go ahead and leave it in first gear with the clutch pressed in while we're stopped if the traffic is moving decently. But leaving your car with the clutch in has been said that it's not that good because it wears out the clutch bushings, but I don't know, a lot of people do it, and I don't personally have any problems with it or know anyone that does. So that's my take on traffic. Just pretty much try to keep a distance and keep moving, or just leave it in first unless you're going to be stationary for a long period of time. And so that's another thing that just reminded me about city driving, is what just happened to me is I was in neutral, coasting to a light, expecting it to stay red, but it ended up going green when I was slowing down, and I was close to it. So I had to make a choice whether or not to go into first gear or whether or not to go into second gear. And in most cars, it's pretty hard to get into first gear because, at least in my previous car, I had to be literally going like 5 miles per hour or be stopped to get my car into first. It just would not want to budge. But in this car, it's a little bit more forgiving. But one thing I've found out is if I'm going slow enough to where I think it's going to be a first gear job, then I'll just push in the clutch and rev match slightly to kind of help match the engine speeds. And then from there, I'll put it into first. But usually I'll not take that chance and go into second because it does end up taking more time if first just doesn't want to work. So the only problem I have with going into second is that it does tend to kind of chug the engine, which I don't like, and I know it's not good for the car, but sometimes just getting into first doesn't want to work. So right now I'm gonna go through a drive-through, but I'm gonna first go through the parking lot to show you guys kind of like what it's like driving around in a parking lot and like having to stop frequently and like yield to pedestrians and stuff like that. So I just did go into third just because I don't want to have the RPMs higher than they need to be, even though I just downshifted, so it didn't really make a difference. Right now I'm in second gear at 2,000 RPMs, which is plenty for a parking lot. And there's people walking, so what I'm doing is I'm at 1,500 RPMs, which is really low, and now they just keep driving my foot's not even on the gas. I see the guy in front of me is really slowing down, but I just pushed in the clutch because we're getting close to a complete stop. So I'm going to go into neutral and just wait a little bit, look around, make sure there's no one walking, and there's an officer in front, and she waved me forward, so let her by, and then here's a guy walking his stroller. So I'm just going to go into neutral and just follow the law and just wait for him to actually clear before going back into first and proceeding. So pretty much for parking lots, you want to be in second or first like this. Like I'm at first at a little bit higher RPMs than I like, but I know that there's a stop sign up ahead anyway, so I'm just going to keep it in first. Oh yeah, I forgot it's on the other side. So then I would go into second in this case. But you're usually going to be just in second gear cruising in parking lots, unless you're going slow enough to be into first, or if you're going to be making a lot of stops. But yeah guys, that's pretty much all I have, or that I can think of right now on the subject of driving stick in the city. It's pretty much just timing lights, knowing when to go into neutral, when to downshift, knowing your car, and just your driving style. So my last example, I'm going to this green light turning right, and it's green, so I don't want to go into neutral, so just go through the gears. Now I'm in second, so I'm good to keep going when I exit the turn. So having to take that second to be in neutral, and then to flip the throttle, and then go into the second gear, which is usually choppier and takes longer. So I'd rather just go through the gears myself. But that's just my take on it. So right now I'm just gonna be a fatty, pull in, get some lunch. But yeah, guys, right now I'm just in second, just barely feathering the gas, then neutral. So guys, that's gonna conclude this video. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, always feel free to let me know. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Alright guys, I did actually forget one thing. So I'm sitting in the drive-thru right now. I'm like, this is kind of considered traffic, so I'm going to move forward, but I can't let out the clutch all the way, because if I do, I'm going to like launch into the back of the car. So when it hits the midpoint and I start rolling forward, I go forward, kind of like riding the clutch, you could say, but giving it some gas, and then I just push it back in and go into neutral if necessary, or stop. So that's what I do with that, because you can't really let out the clutch all the way. If you do, you're going to probably be chugging the engine anyway, because you're going at such a low RPM and speed. So I just kind of rather keep the clutch halfway out or so, and just be able to stop and go smoothly for my sake and the passengers and the cars. So yeah, I think that's everything. If I remember anything, I'll go ahead and turn the camera back on. Thanks.